Hey, everybody, and welcome to Average Speed. All right, we need to talk about average speed. Really, first, they have this slide right here. What's the most common frame of reference? Well, remember, if we're talking about motion and physics as our beginning to physics right here and everything, you're always talking about judging the motion of things, so you need something to compare it to. And if you want to talk about what is the most common frame of reference or most common thing that people are comparing an object's motion to, well, the answer simply is Earth, right? I mean, you got Earth right here with all of its things. I mean, think about it. Most of the time, if you're wondering is something moving or not, you're either looking at a tree connected to Earth, or a mountain, or the land, or the grass, or even like say a building that's connected to Earth. So by far, the planet is the most common thing that we use as a reference point. Okay, now the specific thing we want to get to today is average speed. Right now, average speed, this is what a lot of computers will do that are built into cars, right? So you might have a car and it might have a trip computer built into it. It might say, hey, your average speed over this trip is such and such a thing. So average speed, it's really good if you've got lots and lots of little segments or lots of little data points collected together with how long you were traveling, or how many times did you do a certain distance and how long did it take you to get there. If you want to know the average, it's like, well, how fast was I going on average? So a great example would be a really long road trip. Let's say that you were traveling from Seattle, Washington, and you're going down to, well, Florida down here and everything, close to Sarasota, right? We'll say that because if you're going the other way from Florida up there, it'd just be really sad. You know what I mean? Like you definitely want to go down where the beaches are warmer and everything. Anyway, so if you're doing this trip, it's obviously way, way too long for an average car to drive from Seattle all the way down to halfway through Florida in one day. You just can't do it, at least legally and everything, right? So you can see they kind of have it like divided up, right? From Seattle to Portland, right? Down here to Redding, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Mesa. They've got it divided up into, usable bits that you could do in one day, right? So that's kind of the way they have it chopped up here and everything. So for each one of these trips, right, you could determine, all right, how long did it take, right, and what was the distance that it traveled. So for this one right here, you could do total distance divided by total time. So for each one of these, you could say, okay, we traveled this many miles and it took us this many hours to do it. Then for the next trip, same thing, this many miles and this many, minutes that it took to do that trip, and for each one of these trips as you're going along, if you just kind of wrote it down on a little piece of paper, right? How many miles did we travel? And then how many minutes did it take, right? Then all you got to do is just kind of add them all together, right? Just add up all the distances, add up all the times, right? And that could give you, an overall amount, right? So for example, let's say one time you did 8 kilometers and another time you did 6 kilometers. That would be longer than this trip, but just as an example right here, that means it would give you 14 kilometers, right? And then for the times, well, again, we'll keep them kind of short, right? 20 minutes plus 11 minutes could be the two times for this little trip that you had. That's 31 minutes, right? So then all you need to do is just divide those two together, right? Just divide the total, divided the total time, divided by the total distance, right, that you have from them. So let's do an example, right? To keep the number short, let's say you have this example right here. Let's say you did one trip that was 8 kilometers, another one that was six kilometers, right? That would give you a total of 14 kilometers, right? So that could be the total distance that you had. And then you're going to divide it by the total time. So one of them was 20 minutes and another one was 11 minutes. That would be 31 minutes. So you just divide, right? Divide that total distance divided by the total time, and that would give you, right, the average speed that you would have for that trip. We could do the baby turtle example, right? Let's say, for whatever reason, again, you're just walking along and all of a sudden there's a baby turtle falling, right? It's falling through the air. Why it's falling through the air, who knows, right? But it's falling, right? And let's say at 50 centimeters in 6 seconds. So some scientist decides there's a turtle falling. This is important. We should measure it, right? So they find out that in 6 seconds it falls 50 centimeters, right? But then after 200 centimeters, right, in 15 seconds, right? So what's the average speed of it, right? So two measurements were taken, right? One 50 centimeters, one 200 centimeters. One took 6 seconds, one took 15 seconds. So, it was on the fly. So they're just trying to measure how fast the little tiny poor turtle is falling all the time, right? So you need that calculation for average speed again and everything, right? So total distance divided by total time. So the total distance, right, 200 plus 50, right, that will give you that the turtle was dropping 250 centimeters while, they were measuring and everything. The total time, remember, one of the measurements was 15 seconds, the other one was 6 seconds, so 21 seconds. So then all you need to do is just divide them. 250 divided by 21 equals 11.9 centimeters per second is how fast that turtle is falling on average. But you don't have to worry because it turns out the turtle was on a trampoline, so it's totally safe and everything. And turtle's having a great time. All right, make sure you take the quiz.